Now, I'm going to cross to my regular US commentator, Kristan Tate, in a moment. But first up, Donald Trump has ramped up his campaign to regain the presidency. And have a look at how he's attacked Joe Biden over the revelations from Hunter Biden's laptop. This was at a rally in New Hampshire.
We have a president whose son's laptop from hell gets taken over and exposes massive corruption like nobody's ever seen before. You think the father, do you ever hear this? Do you think the father was upset? Dad, I left my laptop in a repair shop, forgot to pick it up, and this repair guy went a little crazy when he saw what was on it. What's on it, son? Every crime that you've ever committed, Pa.
Extraordinary stuff, Kristan. Thanks for joining us again. But honestly, what he says there, I find it incredible. In Australia, you wouldn't get away with that. There's been no court case, no findings, yet he's accusing Joe Biden of corruption and criminal acts.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of Americans who watch the mainstream media and read, left-wing papers don't even know about this laptop scandal, or at least the details of it, or how bad it is, because the media refuses to cover it. And as everyone knows by now, many outlets like Twitter blocked the story from even being shared right before the election. So I think Donald Trump is right to bring this up. It is so corrupt. And as more details are released from the laptop scandal, it just gets worse and worse. Hunter Biden was involved with some really nefarious actors overseas. And now we learned that Joe Biden had all of these classified documents at all of his properties for we don't even know how many years. I mean, who had access to them? Did Hunter have access to them? Did these associates of his see anything classified? There are so many questions with very few answers. And you got to give credit to Trump. He's one of the few people actually out there talking about this consistently. And he's right.
There's no doubt there's a lot of worrying evidence here. And last week we looked at how the Australian journalist Miranda Devine, writing for the New York Post, had identified when Joe Biden was vice president, bragging about how he had the Ukrainian prosecutor sacked. And Miranda was suggesting there's a prima facie case there that was linked to Hunter Biden's business dealings. I mean, this stuff is absolutely dynamite, isn't it? We've had a lot of gates in America since Watergate, but Laptop Gate might be the next one.
I mean, it just gets worse and worse. And Hunter, his personal activities, which have also been exposed from this laptop, aren't even the worst of it. It's really his business dealings. I mean, this is a guy who was being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to sit on a board at Burisma, having no experience in the industry, simply because of his last name. And now we're learning that he was living with Joe Biden for part of this time period that he was involved with this company and others overseas, having regular contact with people who, we don't know what that relationship was like and if Joe Biden himself actually benefited from these relationships. But we don't have a curious or honest media anymore. They have no interest in digging into what is really, as you said, one of the biggest bombshell stories in a modern political history in this country. But the media has no interest in it. And that's because at this point, the media in this country, the mainstream media at least, is an arm of the DNC. That's what it is at this point. But as normal Americans find out more about what is going on with this corruption, they are disgusted, Chris. They are so disgusted. And you can only hope that through social media and some of the non-corrupt smaller outlets, normal working class Americans will learn more about this and realize that they were fooled by the media and lied to for years about Biden and his family members.
Yeah, I predict that the media will eventually start covering these stories in details because the evidence mounts up. And in the end, the facts can't be kept undercover forever. I want to switch tack to another terrible event that's unfolded in the US. We talked about it on my program last night. That was that shocking beating where 5 African-American police beat to death an African-American man in Memphis. And extraordinarily, we showed last night a newspaper piece, a written column, was suggesting it was still racism at play. Now, today, that's the author of that piece, the CNN commentator Van Jones, has tried to explain what he means. Have a look.
Do you believe this racial bias played a role in the officers' behaviors?
Yeah, I do because, first of all, Black people are at risk from police no matter what color. Black, white, brown, you talk to African Americans, they'll tell you it doesn't matter. There's this pervasive view from law enforcement that if you're black, you're dangerous.
So, Kristan, we see from that, of course, when African Americans are harmed by white police officers, that's white racism at play. But when African American people are harmed by African American police officers, that also apparently is white racism at play.
Yeah, these left-wing race hustlers are completely shameless. They will do anything to push their political narrative, and everyone realizes it at this point. It's obvious. But something that I don't think enough people are talking about, Chris, is one of the things going on in this country right now is that nobody wants to be a police officer because dignity has been stripped from the profession because of these race hustlers. So what's happened is you have these big cities having real problems recruiting high-quality cops. And in fact, at least 2 of the 5 cops involved in this incident in Memphis were hired after that city drastically reduced its standards for cops. You don't even need an associate's degree anymore to become a cop in Memphis and many other cities. And that leads to lower quality candidates applying for these jobs and then a lower quality police force. Nobody wants to do this job anymore. You don't make that much money. You're putting yourself in harm's way every single day. And you know that if you do use force against a suspect, there is a chance that you could have the entire media, the national media, turn you into a villain, whether or not what you're doing is justified or not. So this is part of the problem. I think it's a recruiting crisis. And then the issue of police brutality, which does exist in some cases, simply snowballs and gets worse when you don't have honorable guys out there doing this job.
Yeah, the problem you would think is less about race or faith or the like. You want police officers who respect their people they're dealing with, and also you want police officers to have authority, the respect of the community.
Oh, they've been completely stripped of respect after George Floyd, and then we saw the BLM riots for the year after that. Police officers were totally vilified, and I have friends here in Houston who are former cops or some are still cops. Nobody wants to do this job anymore. The force is getting older. They're having trouble bringing new guys in. So they're just having to get anyone they can to join the force. And it's not the same quality that it used to be. And the training is not as good as it used to be either, because they're just so desperate to get cops on the street that they don't have time or resources to put all of these guys through the necessary training. It's really tragic because, we need good cops out there to protect law-abiding citizens and families.
Sure do. Another shocking incident and more work for the courts to work through in the future. Thanks for joining us again, Kristan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, as always, for having me, Chris.